Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. It's a common question: how much do you know about your own intelligence? Emotional intelligence, EQ, on the other hand, has never been asked about. Emotional intelligence, EQ, examines EQ as well as traits like self-control, empathy, tenacity, and zeal. It's a major concern that children today are more emotionally troubled than in the past, and Daniel Goleman examines the latest research in neuroscience to make the case that, while temperament isn't fixed, it's dangerous to ignore our feelings. Daniel Goleman's name is synonymous with emotional intelligence, EQ, and we need to address this problem. They're one and the same. A lot has changed since emotional intelligence was first published in 1996, but the information is still as relevant as ever. A person's mood and outlook can be contagious, whether they're positive or negative. When it comes to human behavior, there is a remarkable amount of room for both good and bad. You can learn more about Goleman's theory of emotional intelligence in his bestseller Emotional Intelligence and How to Improve Your Own EQ in a brief overview of this topic. Then we'll discuss what emotions are and why they are important. We'll also examine how we can better prepare ourselves and those around us to be more resilient and aware. Going back to Goleman's question, he says, how can we bring intelligence to our emotions, and civility and care to our community life? Because of our limbic system, our emotional center of gravity, we can respond to danger quickly and prioritize relationships. This has kept our species going for millions of years. But there's a problem with this approach. Throughout our evolutionary history, our neural circuitry has proven to be a useful tool, but it has also had its share of hiccups. To put it another way, our neurology hasn't kept pace with the postmodern problems. Although our neocortex and limbic system have matured, in a crisis, the emotional connections of the limbic system reign supreme. Body-brain connection means that our emotions and our bodies work closely together. Being angry makes it easier to defend oneself or inflict harm on another. When we're scared, our blood rushes to our legs, and we have the option of moving forward or retreating after a brief freeze response. Astonishment prompts us to open our eyes wider, which allows us to see more. Sadness allows us to take a break and recharge, allowing us to feel better in the process. Before the neocortex's logic can intervene on the amygdala's input, we have already reacted. Happiness, on the other hand, lessens our negative emotions, allowing us to heal emotionally. When we feel loved, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, resulting in feelings of calm and cooperation. In order to make well-informed decisions, we must achieve a healthy equilibrium between our emotional and analytical brains. Our emotional and rational brains work together to help us make better decisions. So both intelligence and emotional intelligence are important. It is estimated that only 20% of the factors that determine our success in life are influenced by our IQ, which leaves the other 80% in the hands of other forces. IQ is an excellent indicator of academic intelligence, but it does not tell us how well we do in the real world. In order to be effective and happy, one needs both IQ and EQ. Intelligence and emotional intelligence, EQ, appear to be linked. Many people with a 160 IQ have a boss with a 100 IQ, according to Howard Gardner, a prominent voice in the field of multiple intelligences. Intrapersonal intelligence, also known as EQ, is highly prized by these upper-level managers. Salovey divided EQ into 5 categories. First and foremost, we need to be aware of our feelings. We can better control our reactions when we have self-awareness, which makes it possible for us to notice when we are experiencing certain emotions. Secondly, how we handle our emotions is an important part of our well-being. We can recover more quickly from negative experiences if we are adept at managing our negative emotions. Lastly, there is the issue of inspiration. We can better achieve our goals if we learn to control our impulsivity and delay gratification. As a final step, we need to be able to empathize with others in order to better understand their needs. Lastly, we have social competence, which enhances our abilities as leaders, as well as our appeal and impact in social settings. When a samurai asked a Zen master what the difference was between heaven and hell, Goleman tells the story of an arguing samurai. An angry samurai draws his sword and threatens to kill the Zen master after the Zen master tells the samurai that he doesn't deserve their time. He calmly replies, "That was the definition of hell," he says. Samurai realizes this was a lesson from the Zen master to teach him that being swept away by one's own feelings is hell. The samurai calmed down and thanked the Zen master for the insight after accepting the lesson. "That is heaven," the master said. Stepping away from our emotions and looking at them objectively is an important part of self-awareness. Secondly, we must control our emotions. While some people are constantly buffeted by emotional storms and others remain emotionless even in the face of extreme adversity, most people fall somewhere in between. Strong emotions can overwhelm even the most level-headed among us on occasion. Reduce the amount of time you are in a state of emotional turmoil. The more agitated, anxious, or depressed you are, the more difficult it is to focus. One of the most difficult emotions to control is anger. We experience intense anger when we perceive ourselves to be in imminent physical or psychological danger, according to University of Alabama psychologist Dolph Zillman. An adrenal and cortical response, as well as an energy surge, prepares us for a fight-or-flight response. We must intervene as soon as possible in the anger cycle, by quickly questioning our initial assessment of the situation. A good way to de-stress is to engage in activities like physical exercise, relaxation techniques, reading, television, or even writing as a form of distraction. A person's ability to rationally deal with persistent, low-grade repetitive worries can diminish as they develop into panic attacks and phobias. If you're worried about something bad happening, you may have an irrational belief in your own power to prevent it from happening. It is difficult to let go of worry, both physically and cognitively, because of this cognitive reward. Having thoughts of all the reasons why you're depressed only serves to amplify them. As a result, we need to focus on upbeat activities in order to break us out of a rut of focusing on the negative. Another option is to focus on celebrating the small victories. Researchers have found that the act of helping others is powerful, but unfortunately, it is a rare occurrence. Motivating ourselves is the third step. By the time the Chinese Olympic diving team of 1992 was in their early 20s, they had put in as much training as their American counterparts. At the tender age of 4, the Chinese team had already begun their rigorous training regimen. This method of self-discipline takes things to a whole new level. Look back at the famous marshmallow experiment, in which 4-year-olds were placed in a room with a marshmallow in front of them. They'd get 2 marshmallows if they could hold off on eating them until the researcher returned. It's difficult for anyone, but especially for 4-year-olds, to control their impulses. Hope, in addition to self-regulation, keeps us on course to meet our objectives. Researchers at the University of Kansas, led by Rick Snyder, compared the first semester grades of students who scored highly on hope to those who scored lower on the SAT. Students who were more optimistic had higher aspirations, and they were driven to achieve them. Hope and optimism help alleviate anxiety and depression, and the belief that we can overcome adversity increases our chances of success. Success is also a result of a high level of discipline and attention to detail. Flow relies heavily on motivation. Our output goes up significantly when we get into a state of flow. Flow is a term coined by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi to describe the state of being completely absorbed in something to the exclusion of all other thoughts and feelings. For optimal flow, we need to engage in activities that challenge us beyond our current level of ability, and we need to use an optimal amount of cortisol. The fourth step is to connect our empathy to each other. Empathy is an essential part of emotional intelligence, EQ. Our social and emotional well-being depends on our ability to read nonverbal cues. When you're a kid, this is very obvious. As a result of high empathy, children are better prepared for the rigors of the classroom. Approximately 90% of emotional messages are nonverbal, and researchers found that even infants respond empathically to another person's distress. When a toddler is about 2.5 years old, he or she begins to exhibit different levels of empathy, with some children responding enthusiastically, while others become mute. In order for a child to develop this capacity, a parent's consistent response to their child's emotional state is critical. Connecting with others is the fifth step. To be human, one must be able to form relationships with others. We're wired to connect, but it's hard enough dealing with our own emotions, let alone someone else's. Relationships are built on self-regulation and empathy, the two previous EQ skills. A person's feelings can spread to others. In fact, our facial muscles adapt to the emotions we're observing when we're watching someone else be angry or happy. In addition, the more closely people's movements are coordinated, the better their relationship will be. Unfortunately, statistics show that marriages have a poor track record of long-term success, making them an ideal setting in which to work on this. For example, 67% of couples who tied the knot in 1990 are almost certain to seek a divorce. If these statistics are to improve, the ability to connect with others using EQ skills is essential. It's common for people to make fun of men's lack of emotions and women's emotionality. According to Goleman, scientific evidence backs up these differences. In childhood, there is an emotional reality for him and her that is based in part on our genetics and influenced in part by the environment we grow up in. By the time you get to 13, you'll notice a big difference. When it comes to aggression, Girls can be more subtle and artful than boys, who tend to be more physically confrontational. Boys thrive in large groups, whereas girls thrive in small, close-knit ones, where they can foster cooperation rather than competition. It's common for a girl to stop a game to help someone who has fallen during a game, but a boy is expected to stop crying and carry on. If you've ever had to argue with your spouse, Carol Gilligan, a professor of psychology at Harvard University, has some advice for you. To her, the ability to argue well is more important than knowing what to argue about. More than 200 couples' conversations were studied by John Gottman from the University of Washington, and he was able to predict who would divorce within 3 years with 94% accuracy. Disdain was the driving force behind this conclusion. Contempt can be seen in our body language as well as our words. He explains that contempt can be recognized by the way the left side of the mouth is pulled inward, and eyes roll upward. When we're not paying attention, our heart rates go up. A husband's regular contempt for his wife increases her risk of a wide range of health problems, according to Gottman's research. A woman's face showing disgust 4 or more times in a 15-minute conversation indicates that the couple will break up within 4 years. Finally, there is stonewalling, the most extreme form of defense. To stonewall is to remain silent and look blankly at your conversation partner while refusing to engage in any further conversation. Relationships can be doomed if one partner feels resentful and superior to the other, making it nearly impossible to resolve any differences. One partner's interpretation of what the other person is saying or doing can also lead to flooding, in which people feel overwhelmed by the negativity, their heart rates rise, and their muscles tighten. They can't respond rationally because their emotions are so strong. Men are more likely than women to put up a wall, often to prevent flooding. After an imbalance, things can quickly spiral out of control and lead to a divorce because of all the negative thoughts and feelings that are generated. It is a recommendation from Goleman to argue more carefully. Keep the conversation focused on a single issue and practice empathy by listening to each other. Listen to what the other person is saying and thinking, and then repeat it back to them. Emotional attunement and defensiveness can be improved through this practice. Does this affect the place of work? Goleman likens a plane's cockpit to a large corporation. Airline crashes can be avoided 80% of the time with good teamwork among the crew, research has shown. Working environments can be affected by marital dynamics, and this can have serious ramifications for the business. In order to solve a problem, both management and employees need to view criticism in a healthy way. When a group is in harmony, each member can contribute to the best of his or her abilities. Star performers are distinguished from the rest of the pack by their emotional intelligence, EQ, rather than their intelligence, IQ. Before they needed them, they created strong informal networks. As the number of knowledge workers rises, so does the importance of collective emotional intelligence, and improving our ability to work together is essential for business growth. In terms of health, emotions are just as important as physical factors. Emotions have been shown to have a significant impact on the immune system, according to recent studies. This link is something that some surgeons pay close attention to. He says that if a patient tells him or her that she is afraid of the surgery and does not want to go through with it, he cancels the procedure. Dr. Kamran Nezhat, an eminent surgeon, says that when people are calm, they perform better in surgery and are less prone to heavy bleeding and complications. Panic raises blood pressure, which in turn causes veins to expand and bleed more. According to meta-studies, distressing emotions are as much a risk factor for health issues as smoking and high cholesterol. Relationship-centered care, which incorporates social intelligence as a crucial component of medical care, is an important reminder from Goleman. Compassion, as one patient put it, is good medicine. Empathy begins in the home. Emotional education begins at home. One of the challenges of parenting is that it necessitates the parent's own development of emotional intelligence. If you ignore feelings, fail to show a child that there are other ways to respond, or are harsh and punitive toward a child, you'll be reinforcing old habits and lessons. Are you angry because Tommy hurt your feelings? And other such questions can help parents become emotional coaches. Instead of hitting him, find something else to play with until you want to play with him again, she suggested. EQ coaching has a big payoff. More social skills, less stress hormones, and an easier time paying attention are some of the benefits of well-trained children's emotional intelligence. 5-year-olds with good parental EQ coaches have higher math and reading achievement scores even if their IQs are the same. In a nutshell, childhood is the ideal time to cultivate emotional intelligence, EQ. My destiny is determined by my temperament. Some children's nervous systems are more reactive, and as a result, they are more prone to anxiety and stress-related physiological reactions. Parenting a child who is afraid of new experiences can lead parents to believe that they must protect them, whereas other parents prefer a more learn-to-adapt approach. The latter approach is much more beneficial because children learn to cope with the unexpected when they are exposed to small and manageable doses of dealing with it. Taking a few steps outside the comfort of one's own home can have a profound effect on a child's neural circuitry. Furthermore, small successes that build confidence and independence can be a catalyst for this transformation. Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, The Power of Personal Responsibility. Disruption of emotions occurs as children grow older. The number of teenagers suffering from mental illness is on the rise. Depression can affect as many as 9% of children between the ages of 10 and 13 years old. For boys, this rate remains the same, but for girls, it can double at puberty. Up to 16% of girls in the 14 to 18 age range have attempted suicide, according to the Pew Research Center. It's an important question in Bounce.D16, where 16 people revealed that they've suffered from debilitating bouts of depression. Recent studies have shown that children who are more likely to become depressed have a gloomy outlook on life. They are more depressed than those who see the great as something that can be improved. Good results have been seen in interventions that challenge thinking patterns and reframe failure. At the beginning of adolescence, it may be beneficial to learn to challenge pessimistic beliefs. As a final point, emotional intelligence, EQ, can be developed through self-awareness, the ability to identify, express and manage feelings, the ability to delay gratification, and the ability to manage stress. EQ building programs should be implemented between the ages of 6 and 11. This is especially critical as children move from elementary school to middle school. As a child's biology and brain function undergo significant changes during puberty, social-emotional programs can help protect them from the difficulties that come with these transitions. The optimal design of emotional literacy programs is to begin early, be age-appropriate, run throughout the school year, and intertwine efforts at school, at home, and in the community, Goleman writes. Daniel Goleman makes a compelling case that emotions are far more important to our social and academic success than we realize, based on scientific research. Emotional intelligence is something we can cultivate throughout our lives, not just in childhood, he demonstrates. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.